Good morning. I thank you for joining me once again on another broadcast. We want to talk about the Word. This time I'm starting a series. We're going to be in the book of Acts, mainly with Paul the Apostle and how he dealt with drifters and grifters. Now in this internet information age, you talk to Gen Z and you talk to the younger folks now, they have a popular word that's going around now called grifters with a G. Not drifters, but grifters. But I want to talk about drifters and grifters, two words that maybe sound alike slightly, but have slight differences, but motives both on both ends are selfish. And that's what I want to talk about. Paul's going to encounter a few drifters and grifters. Now, because this new information in this internet generation comes up with words and everything's in the urban dictionary now, and there's various meanings. You talk to several different young people, you're going to get various definitions on what a grifter is. So I'm going to define, for this argument, for this series, I'm going to define a grifter and a drifter so we have a common definition. You might disagree, but this is just a common definition I want to go on. And I'm going to give you examples of them too, modern day examples of them, and then we're going to go into the scripture and we're going to find out how these drifters and grifters are dangerous. Can be dangerous. See, a dog or King Corsica or a pit bull is not bad until he bites you or bites somebody that you know. He's friendly, he's a nice dog until something happened to you. So these drifters and grifters, you say, oh, well, they can do what they want to do, and they can do, they're just doing that, doing the American way, the capitalist way, until it affects you. This is why I'm giving this argument, because Paul encountered these individuals, and ultimately, these individuals were responsible for having them in prison, beaten, and put in jail, and killed. So, let's get into it. A drifter. Let's first go off with drifters, starting with a D, D-R-I-F-T-E-R. A drifter is one that mainly changes his opinion as the wind blows. He's fickle. He's back and forth. Mad at you one time and then happy with you one time. He'll go with the flow. A drifter's main purpose is survival. So he'll kowtow to white supremacists. He'll kowtow to Master Charlie. Why? Because he wants to be safe. His ultimate goal is a peaceful death. Now, I'm not saying that to be funny. They just want peace. They don't want no trouble from nobody. They don't want to upset what's going on right now. I have peace right now. I want to keep that. So I'm going to adapt to whatever ruling class or whoever has the power. I'm going to adapt to that, to change for my safety. Again, it's selfish, because what they're doing is going to affect other people, but their whole motto is, well, as long as it ain't happening to me, it don't bother. They don't care if a serial killer is living next to them and they chopping up bodies next to them. Well, as long as it ain't me, it ain't affecting me. So, out of sight, out of mind. That's a drifter. A grifter, now, all right, now this is a definition I'm going to put out there, so whoever say, well, that's not what it means, that's what it means. I'm just having it so we have a common definition. A grifter is one who seeks an opinion or takes a marketing stance to gain acceptance based on his private or personal gain. In other words, he does something, he doesn't care whether he believes in it or not, but he's doing it just to make money, just to have personal gain for himself. So if it's, and it's at the detriment of somebody else. They're a mercenary. A mercenary soldier is a hired soldier. They're hirelings because it's something in it for them. So at the expense of somebody else, they're going to be uplifted. So they'll take a popular position, they'll take a stance, or they'll say something to draw attention to them especially in this YouTube world, just so they gain acceptance. Let me give you a couple examples of this. Famous YouTuber, now deceased Kevin Samuels. Kevin Samuels took some talking points. And he first wanted to talk to the male audience. He wanted to be the opposite Oprah. But he learned that he can make a living and make money by YouTube likes, shares, and subscriptions. More important, engagements. So what he did is he started interacting with females the opposite as what Oprah Winfrey did. Oprah Winfrey would, tear down man, tear down Colonel Purple and all that. He would do the opposite, and he would incite women. Regardless on what opinion the woman had, he was going to find something negative on why she's not suited for marriage, or she's not a suitable woman. She's a single mom. She's this. She's loud. And he would do that, but what it would do, it would attract people to build that one. People like to argue. And it became popular, and he got over 1 million subscribers, and he got a lot of money. That's a grifter. He took a lot of opinions from different people, YouTubers, and he put them all together, and he made it his. And his marketing strategy was to talk sharply, be able to go back and forth with the women. No matter how hostile, he had an answer for engaging with them. Now, this was dangerous because what he did was dangerous to other people. It started and it added fuel to a gender war that's going on now still. Now you have this red pill, and you have this, and high value man, and all these things where what it's doing is driving more wedges in between individuals. Some people think that, hey, well, it's just a YouTube, you don't have to watch. Well, one of the things that COINTELPRO worked, one of the reasons that it worked, it was a FBI initiative enacted by Gay Edgar Hoover to infiltrate the black movements that were uprising, the SNCC, the PUSH, and the Rainbow Coalition, all those things. So what he did is he, under this COINTELPRO, or the counterintelligence, is to exploit petty differences amongst people. And this is how he gained access into these different groups, because he used individuals. He wouldn't do it himself, but he would use people to infiltrate them and exploit petty differences. Those petty differences broke up these different organizations from within. That's why they were able to kill people like Malcolm X. That's how they would be. They would use people like Messy Jesse to go in there and tell on them. And it started before that, because, a lot of people that wanted to run with Harriet Tubman, they had, guess who? They had the porch, porch ninja that, Toby gonna run. Do you go back and say, Toby gonna run? And they had something called meritorious manumission. Meritorious manumission, that's the word. Meritorious manumission, where a slave owner would gain trinkets, butter biscuits, or extra privilege by telling on or stopping an upheaval, or telling on a runaway slave. Well, so the thing goes on today. Personal benefit at the expense of other people. Now, let me give you another example of a grifter. A grifter, I had the photo up there before. People switch parties from Democrat to Republican. That's why you shouldn't take sides on them. I see people in Christ talking, I'm Democrat, or what about those Republicans? And look, you see this picture here? Do you know that Donald Trump once was a Democrat? Y'all didn't know that? You know he gave a lot of campaign money to the Clintons, Bill Clinton. Y'all didn't know that? He was in New York, one of the most democratic states or blue states in the United States of America. So Donald Trump used to be a Democrat. We saw a lane to benefit himself, so he grifted and said, look, I can galvanize votes by taking upon me this persona of this large base that was growing. They had a party called the Tea Party, with this large angry people that were or so-called classified white that said, look, things, they're taking over from us. It's the replacement theory. And we can't let this happen. We have to make America great again. So he tapped into that, said, this is a large enough base where I can galvanize enough support that I can take over. So I'll become a Republican. And I'll first destroy the existing party of the Republicans by having them fight against each other. And I'm going to sneak right in there, and I'm going to gain popularity to be able to. And I don't actually think he could win, but the people behind him, like the Heritage Foundation, the one that came up with Project 2025, people behind him said, well, maybe we can run with this. Let's go all the way to the White House and win it. Well, Donald Trump is a grifter, because that's why people like Sean Diddy Combs, Mike Tyson were very good friends with Donald Trump at first. And some of them still have loyalty to him because he used these people for his benefit. Mike Tyson back in the day was making a lot of money for people. Donald Trump would actually promote or put up the money to Don King to promote these fights. They needed the money for the venue, so he's the one that put up the money. Anyway, one more example of a grifter. More of a grifter, and she's a combination of both of them. We got Chameleon Harris. She grifts from point to point. She's black, she's Indian, she's American, she's not American, she's pro-life, she's pro-abortion, she's whatever the wind blows, whatever's in her benefit. I'm an AK. I'm for everybody. I'm not going to do nothing just for black people. I'm going to do everything to appease the audience that's at me. So she's more on the side of the drifter, but she's a grifter too because she does things for her own benefit. Ultimately, she wants to do. So now that we got those definitions, we have to watch those individuals. Now let's get into the first grifter examples I want to give. So to do that, I'm going to have to give you a little background. So most of the message and the remainder of this message is going to be a lot of background to set up the scene that we see. How Paul got into this dilemma where he had to face a lot of these drifters and grifters. So we're going to start back at Acts 20. You don't have to go there because I'm going to be doing a lot of review. If you go back to Acts 20, and I'm going to summarize them. Acts 20 was Paul meeting with the elders at Miletus. And he was telling those elders, this might be the last time I see you. I'm not shunned to declare all the gospel to you. I told you everything. I taught you from house to house. I held back nothing from you. But now it's my time. I got to go. I got to go off and face the Romans. I got to face the Jewish leadership, ruling class. And what I'm doing and what I'm teaching is going to be detrimental to me. But I'm doing it for Christ's sake. I know the suffering that Jesus Christ did, and I want to take part in that suffering because this is my job. This is something I'm foreordained to do. For my mother's womb, I'm a chosen vessel. So I'm going. So that's Acts 20. So in Acts 21, now we got Paul about to depart, and he meets up with a prophet called Agabus. And Agabus foretells what's going to happen. You look, Paul, if you take this journey over there, that this is what's going to happen. And he grabs his cloak and he said, they're going to grab you up and then they're going to try to destroy you. Meaning you're going to run into a lot of trouble. You go over there preaching this doctrine, you're going to run into a lot of trouble and they're going to scoop you up and want to get rid of you. But Paul says, I'm not afraid of that. And before Biggie Smalls, he said, I'm ready to die. So Paul goes on, and he goes over into the religious establishment, and he does what he always does. He goes into the synagogue. He goes into the temple. He goes where the religious rulers are at now, the popular people, the speakers, those out there that are out front. And he speaks the truth. What was Paul preaching? Paul was preaching that Jesus Christ is the Messiah, and that we're saved by faith, saved by grace through our faith not by the old covenant, not by these rules that are set up. And this became a problem. This was the dilemma of Paul. Now, so he goes into the Jews, and it became uprisings because of what he was preaching. They're saying this guy is preaching against Moses' law. This one should be put to death. The problem is the Jewish authorities and Jewish rulers didn't have the authority in the Roman government. They didn't have the authority to put him to death. They wanted to. They wanted to get rid of him, put him in prison and put him to death, get him out the pain. But they didn't have the authority. So what they had to do is they had to find somebody that was able to do it from the Roman side. So we have a religious dispute with him, or superstitious, sometimes King James translated. We have a religious dispute with him that we think is worthy of death, is blasphemous. But we can't persecute him under this system that we're under. The system. So I have to go into the Romans to find a reason to get rid of him. Problem is, there's no one under the Roman government that has enough knowledge to be able to do this task. So tumults were happening, and they first scooped up Paul, and sometimes people go against the law when the law ain't looking. But God had foreordained Paul to preach and foreordained a Roman soldier, Licinius, to scoop Paul up. Once they scooped Paul up, and Licinius, the soldier, saved him. Said, "Look, what are you beating this guy up for?" Now he was an official, so they had to back off him now. So they said, "Look, this guy is teaching something. We want him prosecuted." They were the modern day Karen. They were yesteryear Karens. This guy is doing something. All he's doing is, after the way you call heresy, all I'm doing is preaching what's in the book. Romans didn't know the book. Paul did. Paul had what I call a trichotomy. And this was the dilemma that they were dealing with, the Jews were dealing with. The trichotomy was, Paul was educated in the Jews' law. He was taught under the feet of Gamaliel. He went to school. He had the knowledge of the Jews' law. He got his revelation from Jesus himself. So he knew grace and truth. And the third part, he was a Roman citizen who knew Roman law. He knew all three of them, but they had no individual that knew it to the extent that Paul did. And this is the problem that he's going to keep running into. And that's what we're going to see going forth. Now, our time is running out. But, so after chapter 22, the Jewish tumult, they take him, scoop him up, and they said, let's take him before the elders. Let's take him before the Sanhedrin, the Jewish council. So, in Acts 23, you see Paul and Annas and the high priest, and they take this man, the Licinius delivers him over to the Jewish leaders. Look, y'all deal with that problem. He didn't do anything wrong. All he did is spoke his mind. And I don't know the law, so I don't know what you're saying that he's saying is wrong. I don't know anything about that. So I'll hand him over to you guys. So he hands him over to the high priest, Annas. And Annas takes him before a motley crowd of the legalists, the Jewish leadership. Paul brings up the argument of the resurrection, which causes a divide because the Sadducees didn't believe in the resurrection and the Pharisees did. The Sadducees didn't believe in the afterworld or angels. The Pharisees did. And it caused a tumult amongst them. So once again, there was another argument, and the one who started was Paul. So once again, they're ready to scoop him up and take him. And they said, look, we demand you. So we appeal to the higher so-called king. We appeal to the king, or the governor actually, which is actually the governor at the time was Felix, a heathen. He knew nothing about Jewish law, but he had a favoring with Caesar. He was a former Antonius Felix was in Acts 24 was a former slave that became a Roman citizen, and he became a corrupt Roman citizen. So he was known for his corruption. So hey, look, this guy took bribes, and we can get Paul in prison by this guy Antonius Felix, who was the governor. He was actually over the king or ethnarch at the time, Herod Agrippa. He was actually higher than him because he was more in with the Roman government. Agrippa was more of a king of Judea or of the Jews. He wasn't as high as the governor Felix. So the first grifter that we have is a corrupt politician. So let me give you an example of a corrupt politician. Former new governor turned presidential candidate Chris Christie. I call him Chris Christa. Corrupt, loudmouth, boisterous, but in with the government. In with the government, and actually had ties with many of the politicians, the senators and congressmen in the White House. He's in tight. He did corrupt things. I think he used a helicopter to take his son to some kind of sporting event. Taxpayer money. Well, this is the same as Antonius Felix. Somebody corrupt, somebody that take bribes, somebody that always has his hand in the pot somehow. This is an example of somebody like Antonius Felix, a grifter. Something in it for him at the expense of somebody else. So he meets with him. So Antonius Felix, look, I'm a heathen. And plus, I'm married to Drusilla, who's of the Herodian dynasty, Edomite. And this is my second marriage, which isn't accepted, especially in your law. So let me hear this guy. But once I heard of this guy, and he talks about, hey, you know that Drusilla, that one you're through with? That ain't your wife. The one your wife is back there, that first one that you met. If they got you into the royal family, you married into the royal family, and now you divorced her because you wanted Drusilla's, you know what? But that's who you are. So Felix, as he reasoned of righteousness, he trembled. And he said, wait a minute. Let me get somebody. So Felix, when he first heard of Paul, let me get somebody who might be able to persuade him. And I'm going to go to my last grifter, and I'm going to take it up hopefully next week from there because my time is running out. So what Antonius Felix does is he gets a slick-talking politician / Christian to be able to talk. A man named Tertitlus, an orator, one that's very good at speaking, one that's very persuasive, that gets rallies going, and in with the Roman government. So he gets the modern day Al Sharpton, Tertullus, to persuade the listeners, the Jewish mob, that this man is wrong. And what he did is what Antonius Felix does in Acts 24, where we're going to pick up. Now after verse 1, Acts 24, verse 1, and this is where we're going to pick up next week. After 5 days, Antonius, the high priest, descended with the elders and with certain orator named Tertullus, who informed the governor against Paul. Verse 2, and when he had called forth Tertullus, began to accuse him, saying, seeing that by thee we enjoy great quietness, talking in front of Felix, the governor, who had a lot of power. So he's a sycophant. He's buttering Felix up. See, by you, we enjoy it's calm around here when you're around. You know, you got things in order. That's Al Sharpton. So we enjoy great quietness, and very worthy deeds are done unto the nation by thy providence. So we see the sycophant Tertullus doing the bidding of the Jewish leaders, but not knowing Jewish law. And verse 3, and I'm going to end it up right here. My time is up. We accept always and in all places, most noble Felix, with all thankfulness. A sycophant, a bootlick, a coon, one who stands against his own people at the detriment of any, for his benefit. Lord willing, I'm going to pick this series up next week. Heavenly, most gracious Father, Lord Jehovah, may eyes and ears be open. Continue to have this dialogue to help us, Lord, in all ways and everything. In Jesus' name we humbly pray. Amen.